Chuck Lee, our host, is tied up a little bit, checking out a big story happening in Eau Claire right now, so I'm going to wing it alone for a bit. We'll be taking your calls on different subjects, what you'd like to talk about. You can give us a call, and the number will be flashing across the screen momentarily, and we'll see what we can do. But in the meantime, to get things rolling, I've got a few questions for our city council here. Well, not really the city council, but the street department. I'm curious why the third set of lights was put there on Jones Street. It seems to be a little bit of a hassle. Sometimes you'll hit the red coming off the bridge, then you hit the red again at the corner of Jones and South Barstow, then you hit the red on Farwell Street again. It's a little bit time consuming. And I wonder if any of you's got a comment on that out there. So our number is 839-6261. If you'd like to call in, call that number and we'll talk to you. And we got a few other things here to speak about. Another one is, another subject you may want to comment about tonight is the Million Mom March held during Mother's Day for stricter gun control, which, well, I don't feel that we need it. We need present laws more enforced, but it seems that the Clinton administration doesn't want us to do that. He wants to just kind of let the convicted felons that try to buy a firearm go. Well, I guess we got a call. Call report.
Well, how's it going? Where the hell's Chuck?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out ourselves. We
We're
called
on the show here, huh?
Well, trying to.
I'll say there's three important topics. One's being discussed at the city council meeting tonight. It's about cable.
Yes.
I just think maybe some of your listeners might want to encourage the city representatives, members of the council, to ask additional cable companies, one or more, to come into the community to give some consumers some choice and some competition, which hopefully would allow for better pricing.
Mm-hmm. I think that's...
And also I think they're talking about funding public access. And I think you guys should stress to your listeners how important it is for city government to continue to fund public access so the citizens can view government at work on the television.
Okay. And what was the third one?
Third one. I think it was two.
Oh, it's just two. Okay, well,
I don't know what you guys are talking about. I just tuned in, so if I change the topic, I hope I didn't cause a problem.
No, that's okay. I'm glad you called. We were just kind of winging it here, giving some ideas what to talk about. Because as you know, Chuck, he runs the show, and he has everything pretty well laid out, and I'm kind of winging it.
Yeah, well, that's good. You're doing a good job. What a
well, thank you.
snazzy looking outfit.
Oh, well, thank you. It's just something old I picked up when I was down in the dumps.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Probably looks like it, too.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Chuck is, huh?
What's that?
Chuck, he's missing. No idea where he is?
No, I hope that he wasn't. Oh, there.
Okay. Is that him?
I don't know. Yeah, it's something, you know, we got the call report. We got animals running around here.
Well, see if you can stir up some callers to talk about the cable and funding public access.
Well, now, just a minute. What are they doing about the cable? They want to get more competition in here?
Well, that was my suggestion. I called some of the city council members tonight prior to the meeting, and they all agreed it sounded like a good idea. And I guess at any time, under the current relationship the city has with the existing cable company, another cable company can come in and set up shop and do business.
Okay.
Which would be great for the consumers. A little competition and a little variety.
I think it would be. Yeah, we could, because I thought I heard something today. I just heard the tail end of it. I thought that our cable bills are going up about 75 cents a month.
Oh, they're very expensive. You go just north of us up to Rice Lake, and they either have charter cable, or it's also offered through Chabarden. the local phone company.
Oh, so they've got 2 cable services in Rice Lake.
They've got 2 cable companies, and if they can do it in Rice Lake, we sure as hell can do it down here in the big city of Eau Claire.
Oh, you better believe it. But, yeah, I hope they do give a call, because that would be good. Competition is good. You know, NSP's got a monopoly on power, and phone company basically still has a monopoly on the phone.
Yeah.
So why not get some competition somewhere and get it in the cable?
Yeah. Well, hopefully your callers will call in and talk about those things.
That would be a good idea. Well, thanks for calling.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, there's another subject that we could talk about is tonight's city council meeting on whether we should have another cable company in Eau Claire, given Charter a little bit of competition to lower the rates, perhaps bring a little variety in shows, because I've noticed a lot on the pay channels, you know, HBO, Cinemax, so on, that from month to month you're going to get about the same programs as you had on another channel the month before. And I one time experienced watching, I believe it was HBO, I switched to Showtime, and the same 2 movies, or the same movie was on both channels. And I don't think that's, you know, really worth the money that we're paying out for the cable. So this caller excuse me, suggested that we have 2 cable companies running competition against each other, which I think is a great idea. It'll get the rates perhaps lowered, and more variety of programs, more variety of stations and whatnot. So if you want to call in and comment on that, feel free to call and comment. Our number is 839-6261. So let's see what we have here next. Another thing we could comment on is, just a moment I get here. We could perhaps comment on the Clinton's 100,000 police officers that he wanted to hire throughout the nation. And a strange thing that I observed was we put on 100,000 police officers, but yet in a 13-month period in New York, some police officers shot to death 3 innocent people who had no firearm on them. They had committed no crime. They just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now, maybe this was just an isolated incident. I don't know. But it seems to me that someone wasn't trained properly. So you might want to call in and comment on that. And let me see what we got here. I picked up a leaflet a couple of weeks ago. It was at the local gun show out in Altoona, and it's put out by the Libertarian Party, I believe. Let me just double check here. Yeah, Libertarian Party, and they feel that we're losing our freedom of speech, that it's under siege in America. And they go on to, excuse me just a minute here. They say that there's a lot of disapproval of what you say, but it'll defend to the death your right to say it. They go on here, no right is more fundamental than freedom of speech. Without freedom of speech, you can't communicate your ideas and feelings, declare a social injustice, pursue an artistic vision, investigate scientific truths, and so on. But there seems to be quite a bit of censorship going on, and one of the things that is being censored, according to this article here, is they have a insensitivity. They also go on to say that certain writings are being what's the word I want? They're being censored, and the government seems to think that this is okay. They have certain groups of people, minority of groups, have watchdog groups out for different types of literature that they feel is not right for kids as old as high school. And some of these have been Huckleberry Finn, to name one. I'm trying to get the other one they had listed in here. The reason for Huckleberry Finn, I believe, is that the N-word, if I want to be politically correct, was used in there several times. And so that may be something else we could discuss tonight. Oh, we have another call. Call report. Could you turn your TV down? I'm getting feedback.
Just did.
This who?
I just did.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, I'm just asking you about the legalization of marijuana. What do you think of that?
Well, if you watched the show before, I do believe that it should be legalized because as such it could be regulated, much like alcohol, which is still the #1 drug in this country, and it could be more controlled. As far as other drugs, I don't know. But marijuana seems to me to be one drug that they could legalize and then regulate it, much like they do alcohol. You want it legalized? Did you want it legalized? I guess you hung up. Perhaps I answered this question wrongly. I don't know. Anyway, on this Million Mom March, I have here some, well, I don't have the figures down on this paper, but I do wish that the Million Moms would probably turn their attention a lot more to drunk driving. Drunk drivers kill more people in this country than handguns, rifles, or other forms of, like suicide and so on. Excuse me. And then I know they have groups like MAD and other groups that are fighting drunk drivers, and they've made the laws quite strict. But I've often wondered, it seems kind of ironic that if a man is picked up for drunk driving because he had an accident, someone was killed or hurt badly, he can never own a firearm again. But yet he can buy all the weapons of choice as far as the automobile up until he gets so many drunk driving convictions. Finally, then the law will step in and take away his car and license plates. This just doesn't seem right to me. I think that if a person is convicted of drunk driving the first time and somebody is killed or injured badly because of his actions, I do believe he should never own an automobile again. He should be made to walk, take public transportation, or ride with friends, but never should he be able to have an automobile. Because, like I said, you read in the paper every day, people who are picked up repeatedly, time and time again, because they've been driving after revocation and driving drunk, and they just seem to pay their fine, do their jail time, and they come back out and buy a car and start driving again until they get picked up again. And I think that they should perhaps get a little stricter on the first time, which I think they have been. But as far as them getting another automobile, I think that should be something, there should be some way that they would have to be checked out thoroughly before they could get one. If you have comments on that, feel free to call in and we'll discuss it. You may have different views than I do. And our number is 839-6261. And Chuck should be here shortly, unless he got tied up. We'll see what's going on. Well, I guess I'm the host tonight. Well, let's see. I believe I had something in the paper here I was going to bring up tonight. I don't recall exactly where it was on here, but just give me a moment and I'll find it. Oh yes, here we go. For all you professional wrestling fans out there, which I'm one of, people seem to think that pro wrestling is, is hurting a lot of people with their antics and whatnot, and messing up a lot of kids' minds. Now they feel, of course, a lot of the pro wrestling is fake. It's called sports entertainment now, and it's good entertainment as far as I'm concerned. It does get bloody and kind of ridiculous at times, but I get a laugh out of it, and I understand that it is not real. But a lot of people now want to go after professional wrestling because they say it's causing harm to young kids who don't realize that this is not real. And so, comments on that. I think it is entertaining. It's funny at times. They get kind of risque with some of the women that come on there. So, whatever comments you have on that, you can call in, because I hear now that they're going to start looking into this. They've had quite a few interviews with Vince McMahon about toning it down a little bit, the swearing and the scantily clad women, the violence. But I know we have a local wrestling association. I believe Jim Gagne is the head of it. I'm not sure what the name of some of the wrestlers are, but I hear they put on a good show, and it's quite popular and getting very popular in Eau Claire, in the surrounding area. So if you'd like to comment on that, that would be good too. I see they've got the rewards poster there that I taped up tonight. It shows a $1,500 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of persons or persons unknown that committed a series of burglaries. Well, let's see, I believe it was about 2 weeks ago. So if you hear anything around, these reward posters will be going up around town, and it'll be a way for you to pick up $1,500. So, if you want to call in and find out what places were taken, or which places were burglarized, I'll let you know that. I don't believe you can see that on there. It's kind of small print. Well, let me see what we got here next. I found another article in the Voice of the People that I thought was quite good, because this has happened to me, and I'm sure it's happened to a lot of you out there. This lady wrote in, "Read the sign." And she goes on to say, "I was driving southbound in US 53 in Eau Claire recently with my 4 and 6-year-old children on our way to the doctor when we came to the infamous southbound Birch Street exit." Excuse me. "It was busy, so I hoped, excuse me. It was busy, so I hoped against hope no one in the coming down the ramp toward the city, as I have nowhere to merge to. Naturally, here comes a small pickup truck barreling down the ramp, not slowing down, and needless to say, not looking for anyone who may already be in the lane he insisted is his. As his bumper nearly connected with mine, I honked my horn to warn him I am there. Instead of thanking me for possibly saving his life, not to mention my young children's lives, I got flipped off. It amazed me that no one sees the signs at the bottom of the ramp. You know, the one that says yield. I've encountered snowplows, thousands of cars and trucks, dump trucks, buses, semi-tractors, and yes, Eau Claire's finest, lacking lights and sirens, of course, all not paying attention to that sign. I have the feeling that the state put that sign there for a good reason, and if obeyed, would serve a very good purpose. As for the guy in the truck, back at you, buddy. The yield sign does not exist, or exit, yield sign does not exist in US 53. As for the police department, you could make yourself quite a haul in just one day of catching people breaking the law there. If this is not possible, maybe the state needs to put in a metered ramp as they do in larger cities. Something needs to be done. It's usually the law-abiding citizen who gets hurt. And of course she signs her name. I've seen these metered ramps in Milwaukee area, and they work quite well. What they do is during heavy traffic hours, they'll give you a red light before you can, and then you have to wait for a green light before you can enter onto the freeway. And I know Birch Street is a bad section of 53 because a couple of times I've almost been run over by a semi-truck because they weren't, they couldn't get over. At one time they couldn't get over, another time I couldn't stop because I had cars right on my bumper. But it is a bad exit or on-ramp for 53, and perhaps something should be looked at as far as getting that to be a little safer area, a little easier to get on to 53, because you got that bridge right there, and then just across the bridge you got one of Eau Claire's famous stop and go lights, and I've seen times when traffic, because of the light, is backed up across the bridge and past the Birch Street on-ramp. So sometimes it's kind of hard and difficult to get on there, and hopefully something will be done down the road. Okay, let's see what we got next year. And of course, Elian Gonzalez, oh, there he's showing the reward poster now. The Elian Gonzalez fiasco is kind of tamed down. You don't hear as much about it anymore. A lot of people were appalled that our government would send in armed troops to take the boy out. And I guess the one thing that shocked a lot of people was a picture of the man holding the machine gun, and it looked like it was pointed right at the little boy. So, but that has quieted down now, and I guess like a lot of other things, it's old news. I've got an article here, Clinton versus the NRA. It's the old story. Clinton wants to have practically total gun control. Well, I don't know, because he's a hunter himself, or supposedly is a duck hunter. But in one other article here, I've got to get it out there. I believe I read it about a week ago on the, or 2 weeks ago on the air, about the stash of Russian stash of arms, small arms that Russia allegedly has are hidden around the United States back during the Cold War days. These agents were supposed to be saboteurs. They had their designated factories or whatnot that they were going to sabotage if ever Russia and the United States went to war. Well, something that kind of caught a person's eye when I showed him this article, he said he felt that this article had something to do with what's going on today as far as Clinton and his cronies wanting to get almost total gun control. He pointed out to me, he said, well, if this would have happened, these stockpiles of weapons that the Russians had scattered around the U.S. and let's see, I believe Belgium and Switzerland in Europe. He said that, think about it, he said if we did go to war, if we had a real stiff penalty on private ownership of firearms and real strict gun control, if ever Russia did invade the U.S., these agents here in the U.S. could go to their stash of weapons, and we'd be basically defenseless because our firearms would be locked away, or there'd be such difficult registration process and whatnot that we wouldn't even bother wanting to own firearms, and we would basically be defeated without firing a shot. Now, whether this could happen or not, I don't know, because I know there's possibly as many as, I believe, I read somewhere tonight, there's something like 20 million firearms in private ownership in the United States, which is good. It keeps our freedom. It's like they said that these Second Amendment is not about hunting, it's about protecting ourselves against a government that goes crazy and becomes a fascist government, a tyranny. So I think that when he commented about this to me, that this possibly could have been, of course Bill Clinton wasn't around back in as far as president or anything. Back in the Cold War days, I believe he was working for a Kennedy campaign to get Jack Kennedy elected president, and he possibly himself probably didn't even know about this at that time. But it all, kind of falls into place sometimes when you think about it that way. So that's something else you may want to comment on. So let me see what else we got here in the bag of tricks. This is another pamphlet I picked up. Here's one too called The Green Gestapo. Now, according to this little pamphlet put out again by the Libertarian Party of Wisconsin, they believe that the environmentalists have gone insane, which is possible. I don't know. They've got, possibly here something that says dozens of homes allowed to burn to protect a rat. In Riverside, California, 76,000 acres, much of it privately owned and occupied, was declared a preserve for the kangaroo rat. Excuse me. Kangaroo rats are common throughout California for centuries. They have been regarded as destructive vermin. However, homeowners were repeatedly threatened with prison sentence and fine up to $100,000 if they cleared overgrowth brush from their own property. On October 26, 1993, wildfires swept through the area. Fire quickly leaped from brush to home as homeowners watched in horror as their homes were destroyed. One person went on to say, I guess we're having a little difficulty there. Oh, I guess it's okay now. One person was heard to say, my home was destroyed by a bunch of bureaucrats in suits and so-called environmentalists who say animals are more important than people. In fact, the ban on clearing brush also killed the kangaroo rat who burned along with the home. So there you kind of got a situation of cutting off your nose to spite your face. And it goes on to say here about a California businessman fined $20 million after an employee spilled a barrel of oil. In Santa Rifa, California, an employee of a construction company owned by businessman Fred Grage accidentally spilled a single barrel of oil on a vacant lot. As required by law, Mr. Grage reported the spill to the EPA and local governmental agencies. Over a dozen governmental agencies, including the EPA, California Highway Patrol, and local police conducted an investigation. Grage admitted he got very angry when literally hundreds of government investigators swooped down upon him. So according to Grage, the Green Gestapo decided to make an example out of him. Fines totaling over $20 million were imposed on his business, forcing it to close. Now there again, A barrel of oil is what, probably 55 gallons, if it was that big a barrel. I think they a little bit overreacted there. In another instance, the EPA orders destruction of a home. Throughout much of America, construction of new homes has slowed to a crawl, driving up costs and pricing most young families out of the market. One major reason is the Green Gestapo. Lewis and Frederick Williams of Little Campton, Rhode Island, bought 5 acres for a new home when their home was already partially constructed. They received a letter from the state environmental officials ordering them to tear it down. Although there was little water on the property, eco-bureaucrats had declared their property to be a wetland. The EPA also ordered them to plant trees and tend them for a full year at their own expense. The value of the Williams property plummeted from $260,000 to less than $30,000. How could a dry homestead site be classified as a wetland? Wetland, Robert Pierce, who helped write the 1989 EPA wetland standards, bluntly stated. There again, you see, the bureaucrats have to perpetuate their jobs, so they got to find ways to get paperwork made up and make life miserable for people that don't follow the paperwork, I guess. But here we have one that states property owners are fighting back. Long before America's rewild, we will all be impoverished and enslaved. Where will our food come from if more and more farms are shut down? Where will our building materials come from if the EPA continues to ban mining and logging? What freedoms will we have left if bureaucrats micromanage every home, pond, farm, forest, and field? Fortunately, the extreme anti-human agenda of the Green Gestapo is creating a growing backlash. Nearly 100 bills curtailing environmental overregulations have been introduced in 40 states. In the last 5 years, 23 states have passed laws strengthening private property rights. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that if environmental regulators destroy the value of a person's property, it is a taking under the Fifth Amendment, and the property owner must be compensated. So we do still have some rights, and if we do fight back and stand up to bureaucrats, sometimes we do win. But our number for you to call in is flashed on the screen there. It's 839-6261. If you have any comments on the city council meeting tonight, one of the subjects is a cable company, or if we should have another cable system in Eau Claire where it may bring down prices or get more competitive with prices, so that they don't have a monopoly on the cable service. Like I stated before, I've seen the upper channels, HBO, Cinemax, so on, that they like to switch the shows back and forth. I know that at one time I seen the movie Men in Black so many times I almost knew the whole dialogue by heart. So if you have comments on that, you may call in. Our number is 839-6261. And let's see what else I have here in my little black book of notes that I write down just for this report. Bring a few things up. Oh, we have a call, just a moment. Call report?
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're talking about.
We're talking about a little bit of everything.
All right, good. Thanks.
You got something you'd like to comment on?
Yeah.
What's that?
Have you ever heard any more about that lady that was murdered up on the hill?
No, doesn't matter. You mean the one they found up on off of Margaret Street?
Yeah.
No, as a matter of fact, haven't heard nothing more about it. They must still be investigating it though.
Well, I just wondered if the Eau Claire police, aren't they helping investigate that deal in Chippewa? Oh, don't they have enough to do in town here? Or
Oh, you mean one where the deputy sheriff got shot and went home today? I think that's the sheriff's department doing that, isn't it?
Oh, don't they have enough to do in town?
Evidently not, but I guess the law is that if someone shot in one county, a police officer shot in one county, their own department can't investigate it. They have to bring in a neighboring department. Why, I don't know. I suppose so that somebody can't come back and say, well, you know, they covered up something, or, you know, I don't know. But bringing up that lady that was murdered, well, how long ago was that? About 3 months ago, wasn't it?
Oh, must be close to that.
And you'd think that there would be an update on suspects or something,
Oh, yeah.
and there hasn't been a thing about it.
No.
And it kind of slipped my mind till you brought it up.
And one more thing, what about that deal with the police and the tow truck?
Never heard any more about that either. I guess he
That's funny, though.
he paid a fine, I guess,
Yeah.
or got suspended for a few days without pay, and got his cell phone taken away. Yeah, that was quite a deal.
Okay, that's all I have to say.
Well, thanks for calling. That was a police car, I guess, went through the studio here. Almost ran Roy over, but he jumped out of the way in time, so he's still there. But that is something that I'd kind of slipped my mind about. There's been no more. Evidently, the investigation is probably stalled, and the police are probably just as baffled as we are who did it. Sometimes, you know, crimes can go unsolved for many, many years without any kind of new information coming in about it and whatnot. But that was a good thought. But as far as the Officer Kelly and the Chippewa Falls Sheriff's Department, I believe it is a state law that the same as like if a district attorney's office is involved in something, they'll get a neighboring district attorney to investigate it because of the fact that they feel that the people involved would feel that there was cover-ups and whatnot with the local departments investigate it. And I guess from what I understand, anytime there's a police officer shot, they do get a neighboring city or county police department to investigate it, so that there can't be any, you know, doubts of cover-up or whatnot, so on, which I guess is a good practice. That way you've got kind of an independent investigative force checking it out. Of course, people can still say, well, you know, they cover up for their own and take care of their own, but I'm sure there's plenty of honest police officers on the Eau Claire force and the Chippewa forces, and that they would do an honest investigation. Because in this case, Officer Kelly was shot by I can't think of the guy's name right now, but he was shot coming up to the scene of the family disturbance. So it wasn't that he shot someone. So I don't see where anybody could say that there's any kind of cover-up or anything such as that. So let me see what else we got here from the Libertarian Party. I guess I picked up a few more brochures than I thought I did from them. But here they have a brochure on the looting of America, civil assets and forfeiture laws. Now this one will go kind of with the guy who called in a few minutes ago wanting to know if I thought marijuana should be legalized. Like I said, I believe it should be legalized so it can be regulated, much like alcohol, which is still the #1 drug in this country. But here's different stories about people who were picked up by police because they were suspicious. They had cash confiscated from them, because as you know now, if you do a $10,000 or more transaction with your bank, say you take $10,000 out or you deposit $10,000, they have to notify the federal government. because it might be drug money that you're handling. But here's about a 49-year-old gentleman in Houston who, well, I take that back, it's a 49-year-old lady. She was told she was under arrest because a drug dog had scratched at her luggage. Agents searched her bags and strip searched her, but they found no drugs. They did find $39,110 in cash, money she had received from an insurance settlement with her and her life savings. Accumulation of over 20 years of work at as a hotel housekeeper and hospital janitor. She completely documented where she got the money and was never charged with a crime, but the police kept her money anyway, nearly for 4 years. She did get the money back, but it cost her just about half of it in lawyer's fees to get the money back. You see, the way money circulates today, you can have drug money on you that has drug residue on it, because possibly at one time it was used as payment for drugs and whatnot, and you can be totally innocent, not even knowing that there is a drug scent on there, and a drug sniffing dog will come along and find it or sniff it out, and right away you're under suspicion. But I would hope that, you know, if no drugs are found on you, and if you've been a good person, never gotten into trouble, that they would believe you when you say you got the money legally. There's also a woman in Iowa who was accused of shoplifting a $25 sweater, had her $18,000 car, specially equipped for her handicapped daughter, seized as a getaway vehicle. You see, they can take your car if you use it in a crime. They can take your money if they feel you're a drug dealer. Here and again is where the money itself has drug residue on it from being handled by drug dealers. Detroit drug police raided a grocery store but failed to find any drugs after drug dogs reacted to 3 $1 bills in the cash register. The police seized $4,384 from cash registers and the store safe, according to the police force. Oops, I got a picture. Yeah, let's see, I lost my place here. Oh, here we go. According to the police force, $3.8 million from the federal forfeiture fund, and spent it on such things as a 23-foot boat with trailer and new Pontiac Firebird. Now what that has to do with the drugstore, I don't know, or the grocery store, I don't know. But anyway, unless I got this backwards or whatever. But anyway, that doesn't matter. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, the article goes on to say. The head of one of the Los Angeles Police Forfeiture Squad claims this group personally pocketed over $60 million in seized properties. Why do our courts tolerate these outrageous legalized thefts? Because they get their cut. It's completely legal for confiscated property to be used by police, prosecutors, and judges so long as it's for official business. In 1996, a federal district court even ruled that police can personally receive 25% of the value of any confiscated home, car, or business. So that's why they've got a law right now, or they're trying to pass a law, that before they can seize your property, your money, or whatever, they have to now take you to court and show just cause why they should be able to confiscate property such as money and homes and cars. If you use a car in the delivery of a controlled substance, of course, the car is going to go, and any cash you have is going to go. There's a neat little trick that I've heard some drug runners have been pulling. they'll go to we'll say for example, a car dealership, or possibly even a car rental agency, excuse me, and they'll get a car. Also, if they get a car from a car dealership, they'll of course go up and say, I'd like to test drive that particular car. And they'll go down the street a ways, take off any identification marks that the car dealership may have, like, for example, the window disclosure sticker that has to be on all new and used cars. They'll take that off. They'll have a set of stolen license plates that they stole off another car and put those on, and of course stash the dealer plate that they put on for the test drive. And they'll make a run to a nearby city, a drug run, whatever, either pick it up or deliver. And that way, if they are caught with the drugs in their possession in this car, they don't lose their own automobile because their car was not being used in the transportation of the drugs. And they can't really take the rental car or the car that they're test driving because they're, again, the rental car company and the used car dealer had nothing to do with the transporting. They were just a legitimate business trying to conduct business as usual. But that way they will not lose their own car. They will lose their money and their drugs, of course, and their freedom for a while, but they don't lose their own car. We've got another one here to tell of some of the horrors of confiscation. I do believe it was Colorado District Attorney. They had confiscated a brand new yellow Corvette. You know, there you're talking there about a $30,000-$40,000 car. And it turned out this car was supposed to have been used in like drug busts. You know, I suppose if an undercover cop was pretending to be a big-time drug dealer, he'd drive the yellow Corvette and impress people he's dealing with. Well, it turns out that instead of the car being used for that purpose, the district attorney of this county in Colorado, I believe it was Denver, Colorado, he was using the car for his own personal daily use. And you know, that's just not right. The car was it was intended to be used in some police actions, and it should not be that the district attorney has the right to use that car for his own personal use. It goes on to say civil asset forfeitures define a new standard of justice in America, or more precisely, a new standard of injustice. Under civil seizure property, not an individual is charged with the offense, even if you are totally innocent owner. The government can still confiscate your guilty property. Now that's a question I have. We have to read, if I commit a crime, I have to have my Miranda rights read to me. And one of those things that the Miranda rights says is, do you understand what you're being charged with, so on and so forth. So what they do here is they go and they don't arrest you, they arrest your property. Well, if they make an arrest of your property, shouldn't they have to read the Miranda rights to your property? But how's a house or a piece of land or money going to understand their Miranda rights? So how can they make an arrest on property? It doesn't make sense to me, but I'm sure they got that figured out. So that's what they do is they don't arrest you, they arrest your property, confiscate your property, and then you have to fight through the court system to get it back. Then we go on to say, it goes on to say here, I lost my place. Okay. If government agent seizes your property under civil asset forfeiture, you can forget about being innocent until proven guilty. Due process of law, the right to an attorney, or even the right to trial. All of these rights only exist if you are charged with a criminal offense, that is, with an offense which could result in your imprisonment. If you or your property are accused of a civil offense, offenses which could not result in an imprisonment, in your imprisonment, the Supreme Court can rule that you have no presumption of innocence, no right to an attorney, and no protection from double jeopardy. Seizure occurs when government takes away your property. Forfeiture is when legal title is permanently transferred to the state. To get seized property returned, you have to fight the full resources of your state or federal government, sometimes both. You have to prove your property's innocent by documenting how you earned every cent used to pay for it. You have to prove that neither you nor any of your family members ever committed an illegal act involving the property. To get a trial, you have to post a non-refundable bond of 10% of the value of your property. You have to pay attorney's fees ranging from $5,000 to over $100,000 out of your pocket, your own pocket. Money you pay your attorney is also subject to seizure either before or after the trial. If the government alleges that these funds were tainted, and you may be forced to go through trial after trial because under civil seizure, the constitutional protection against double jeopardy does not apply. Once your property is seized, except to spend years fighting government agencies and expect to be impoverished by legal fees with no guarantee of winning, while the government keeps your car, home, and bank account. In fact, in a recent Supreme Court decision, Bennis versus Michigan, the court said explicitly that innocent owners can be deprived of their property if it's used to facilitate a crime, even without the owner's knowledge or consent. That means you can now lose your home or business because of the actions of an employee, relative, or guest over whom you have absolutely no control. So this means that if you gave a ride to a friend who lived next door, as one case I heard about, and this friend is, because it's raining that day, so you're going to be a good Samaritan, give your neighbor a ride downtown, and he's carrying about a pound of marijuana or cocaine, whatever, and he's at the same time, without your knowledge, being observed by undercover police who've been watching this guy for a while, and they stop you in your car downtown, you will be arrested as an accomplice to the crime of delivery of a controlled substance. And at one time, it was mandatory that the judge would sentence you to a certain amount of time in in the prison system, even though you innocently just gave a ride to a neighbor because it was raining that day, and you gave him a ride downtown, didn't know that he was being watched because he was a drug dealer. So you've got to really be careful nowadays. You've almost got to be a Philadelphia lawyer yourself to know what's going on, what's trump with the law and whatnot, and how you can get into trouble when you're merely minding your own business. It sounds kind of George Orwelling, the man who wrote the book 1984, which he wrote in 48, and he just turned the numbers around, Big Brother. But they, more and more cities are following Europe's lead and putting these video cameras up at intersections and whatnot, so that they can see people who run the red lights, who commit other traffic crimes, which might be okay, but I kind of think we got too many cameras looking at us in place of business and on street corners and whatnot the way it is. So if you have any comments on that, you could have called in, but I see we're kind of running out of time here, so there might not be too much time left to comment on. One other thing that kind of goes along with this confiscation laws and whatnot, I've noticed is that you can be found innocent in a criminal court, but now they can go and turn around and sue you in civil court and find you guilty. And that I can't abide by, much like O.J. Simpson's case. So I guess this is things, again, that have to be worked out in the Congress and Senate and so on and so forth, and try to get some of these various laws changed that take away some of our fundamental rights guaranteed us under the Constitution, Bill of Rights of the United States of America. So you might want to check into some of these things. I'm sure a library's got different books and whatnot that you can check into. And I see our time is up, so as Chuck would say, good night for another time, amigo and amigoettes. And in about, I believe, 2 weeks.